Automating AI content keeps getting easier and easier every single day. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how you can use Claude Code even if you've never used it before. This tutorial is going to mainly be focused on AI content automation and the social media side of things. By the end of this video, you will have a general understanding of Claude Code for AI content automation, and you will also have your first AI content automation that we will build in Claude Code together. Now, before we install anything, let's go over why we're using Claude Code in the Claude desktop app, which is this one right here, which is simplistic and made directly from Anthropic, and you have the little code button at the top here. So I have a diagram here which I made with AI, and you can see on the left here we have N8N, right? So you have linear workflows, right? It's left to right. It just does the same thing every time. Claude can actually do that too. But the problem with N8N is there's bad error handling. So if something goes wrong, it just stops there unless you've actually set something up for it to do when there's an error. But commonly, the errors change, things can go wrong. And so where Claude comes in is it can look at the error and then figure out the problem on its own. So I actually have an example of that right here. This is a generate and post project that I made in Claude. And as you can see here, the prompt got flagged by safety filters. Let me rewrite it with a less intense focus on the chaos. So it figured that out on its own. I didn't tell it to do that. It just figured out, oh, this prompt didn't work, and there was an error with the video being generated. And then it did it again. Now, if we go to N8N here, which we used to do more often, if that happened right here at the get VO3 node, it would try and get the video, but the prompt was flagged, and the automation would just stop, and you would have no idea. So that is the strength of Claude Code. Now, we've got three here that actually do a very similar thing. So you've got Claude Desktop, you have VS Code, and you have anti-gravity. Now, you've probably seen all of these on YouTube if you're in the AI automation or AI space at all. And the way it works is oftentimes in VS Code or in anti-gravity, you will get a Claude Code extension, and then within one of these apps, you will use Claude Code. But the Claude desktop app is made by Anthropic, the creators of Claude themselves, which is this one right here, that you can just load up and load and just use. These ones, you're gonna download an extension to use Claude. Now, the benefits of using these ones, of course, I like to use the Claude desktop app because it's simplistic. It's just you just download it and it just works. But with VS Code or anti-gravity, with VS Code, for example, there's easier file editing. So what that means is when you're talking to Claude and you say, make me a project that generates a video and then posts it to YouTube, what it's going to do is it's going to create files on your computer that will do that. So this is how it works, is it creates files in your computer that will do what you ask it to do. And then once you ask it to do that, it comes to these files and it gets the job done. The strength of using VS Code is that when you want to edit these files, you don't have to edit it here in Windows by like opening each one up and then typing it in here. Instead, it'll look like this, and you'll have it all open and really easily manageable on the left here. These are just all the files on my computer. And you can click on caption.txt and change this, or you can click on a big, massive Python script, for example, and you could scroll really easily instead of it being clunky in Notepad. But for the sake of what we're building, we're just going to keep it in the Claude desktop app and manage it this way by opening it up in Windows and changing what we need to in here, just because the nature of the projects that we make aren't super massive and complex. They're more just to generate videos with specific prompts and video models. And last but not least, you have anti-gravity, which is made by Google. It's Google's code editor. All three of these are code editors, but it's quite similar to the other two. The strengths are it has Gemini if you want to use Gemini instead of Claude. Hopefully you're still following me. I know it can be a lot if it's your first time learning it, What we're going to do now is we're going to go through the setup and installation, and we're going to build our first project. All right, so here we are on the Claude download. You can find a link to this in the description. Once you're on here, you're just going to want to click on your operating system. I'm going to click on Windows. Click there, it will automatically download. I'm going to save it to the downloads folder, but I actually already have it in here. You would just click save. Then you're just going to want to open it up. So I'm going to double click it. It's going to install Claude. I'm going to click on yes. And there we go. I'm in Claude. I already had it installed. You're going to want to make sure to sign in, and you will need the subscription for Claude Code to work because it uses a certain amount of tokens, and the subscription is required for that. It is about $20 per month. Now, there are a few dependencies for Claude Code to work, especially with the projects that we're building with AI content. So those are Git and Python. You can find a link to these in the description. Once you are here on Git, you'll just choose your operating system at the top. And for Windows, we're going to click right here, Git for Windows x64 setup. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. As you can see, I already have it here. Once you download it, you're going to want to go ahead and double click it to install it. I'm going to click yes, next, 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 next. You can just click next endlessly on this. There's a lot of options. Next, next, next. And then when you're done, you'll just click on install right here. I'm not going to click on install because I have already installed it. Now, the final dependency we're going to install is Python. So again, you can find this link in the description. And if you can see right here, we're going to get the standalone installer. So right now it's Python 3.14.3 is the most stable version. We're going to click on that and download that version right now. So I'm going to click here, downloads, and I actually already have it on my drive. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And as you can see right here, once you open it, you're going to have options here. Now, it's important that you check add Python to path. That's going to make sure that it works properly and that it works globally. Okay. Once you've checked that, you can go ahead and click install now. If you're installing a different version, it doesn't matter. It'll still work. There we go. That's all done. And you can close that now. Now, once those are all done, I would recommend restarting your computer just to make sure that everything is working properly. Now, once you've restarted your computer, you're going to go ahead and search for Claude and open up Claude. Once you're here in Claude at the top, you're going to want to click on Code and make sure you open up the sidebar on the left as well. Now, you need to open your File Explorer. Okay, so open your File Explorer anywhere on your computer, just make a new folder. So I'm going to right click, new, and I'm going to call it VO3, 5, whatever. Okay, now that you have your new folder, you can go ahead and open that up. And at the top, just click here and press Control C to copy where you've created that folder. Now what you're going to want to do is go back into Claude Code and right down here, this is where Claude is going to build your project. So you need to select the folder that you just made. So we're going to click here, choose a different folder, and at the top, we're just going to click again and press Control V. And if we hit enter, that's going to bring us to that same folder where we can click select folder. And now Claude Code will work in that folder. So what we need to do is before we do anything, we need to enable bypass permissions. Otherwise, every time it makes something new or wants to modify it, it's going to ask you, can I do this? Can I do this? And it can take a lot of time. So what we're going to do is in the bottom left, we're going to click here. We're going to go to settings. We're going to go to Claude Code on the left right here. And we're going to turn on allow bypass permissions mode right there. Okay. Now in the top left, we're going to go back once that's turned on. And right here, you can now select bypass permissions. Now keep in mind there are risks associated with that because it can just modify everything. I haven't run into any issues with it, but keep in mind there are risks associated with that. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to write a prompt for what we want Claude to do. So I have a prompt right here. I will leave this in the description because it's not too big for you to copy it, okay? So you can go ahead and copy this prompt if you want to follow along with me. What this prompt is within this project folder right here, we're basically getting Claude to create kind of like an end-to-end workflow, but not. It'll be made with Python. Claude's going to use Python, which we installed earlier. And it's going to follow these steps right here every time we type the command /generate video. So we're saying create a new command. The goal of this command is to. So we're creating a command within Claude. So we'll be able to use it once this is done by typing / and then the command. As you can see, there's a bunch here already, but we're making a new one. So what we want it to do is randomly select a video idea from a list, write a prompt for that AI video, send that prompt to Kie AI, which we'll talk about in a second, to generate it with VO 3.1 fast. If you're not familiar, VO 3.1 is a AI video generation model. Then it will write a title and caption for social media. It'll send us a clickable link to the video file here in Claude. And it'll also make a folder called videos to save all the finished videos to on our computer. Then we asked it to create a .env file to upload our Kie API key, which again we'll get into in a minute. All that does is it makes sure that our authentication for the AI videos being generated, which costs money, is private. That'll make more sense in a second. Then you have maintain a separate file with a running log of my published posts and their live URLs. That's going to make sure that we'll have a little text document so we can go back and see exactly what happened. And then at the end, we say, ask me clarifying questions one at a time until you are 95% confident you can complete the task successfully. So that's going to make sure that it really pinpoints exactly what we want before it starts building the project. So I'm going to click go and trust workspace. And as you can see here, it's using tokens. So our subscription has a certain amount of tokens and it resets every 5 hours or so. And that's why we ask it, like say, ask us clarifying questions before you start, because it's going to use up that quota. So before we answer any of these questions, on the left, I'm going to click all projects and I'm just going to select the project we have here to keep it simple on the left. This is basically all of your chats that you start with it. So let's answer this question. It says, what format would you like the generate video command to run as? A Python script you call from the terminal, a Claude Code / command, or something else? Now, yours might look a little bit different to mine. The beauty of Claude Code is you can say, I'm not sure what would be best. You can just say that and then it'll walk you through what would be best. Now, in this case, I'm going to say a Claude Code / command. Enter. What format is your video ideas list? A plain text file with one idea per line or something else? We're going to say a plain text file to keep it simple. Which social media platforms should the title and caption be written for? Let's just say YouTube Shorts. Do you already have a Kie AI account and know which endpoint API to use for video generation? Or should I look up the Kie AI API documentation to find the correct endpoint for VO3 fast? So if we go to Google Chrome here, so I'm here on Kie AI. I'll leave a link to Kie AI in the description. Once you make an account for Kie AI, this is how we're going to actually generate our videos for our example project. So once you're signed in, you can go to the market, and on the left over here, you can go to billing, and this is where you can add a little bit of credits for the AI generated videos. So you can add as little as $5. And once you've got your credits on there, what we need is we're going to need an API key, because if we have a look at the models market, you can see there's all sorts of models on here. So you have Nano Banana 2 if you want to make images, or if we go text to video, you have Kling 3.0, you have VO 3.1, which is Google's AI video model. And this is how we're going to generate our AI content with Claude. So if we go back to Claude, we can see it says, do you already have a Kie AI account and know which endpoint API to use? To make things easier, we can just say, look up the documentation for VO 3.1 fast. So let's say you were looking through this list, you wanted VO 3.1 right here, and you clicked on it. You could click the API right here, which would teach Claude how to use it and give it the link. But let's say you didn't know how to do that, or you just wanted it to handle it all on its own. You can ask it to do that, and it will go and search the web and find this information on its own. So VO 3.1 has VO 3.1 fast, which is much cheaper. So that's why we're asking it to use that model. And if we go back to Claude, we can say, look up the documentation for VO 3.1 fast. I'm just going to hit enter. So there you go. It says, good news. I have the full API details. So it actually went to the internet, found this for us, found the API, and then just taught itself all of this for us, which is really cool. So now we just have to answer its question. So one more question. Where should the video ideas text file live? In the same folder as the command, or should the command accept a file path as an argument? Now, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. So all I'm going to say is do whatever is simplest, sorry. Do whatever is simplest. So it says it has everything it needs, and it's now going to build the project. Also, in case you want to see your usage, as you can see, we've used 1.3K tokens so far for this. If you go to the bottom left, click here, settings, and then you can click on usage right here. And here's your current session, which will reset in whatever time. So for me, it's 2 hours and 27 minutes, and I've only used 9% so far. So even with bypass permissions on, sometimes it will still ask you to allow certain actions. So I'm just going to click on always allow for session right here. And I'm going to click always allow for project local again. All right, so it's all finished. Now there's a few things we have to do to get it fully complete. So the first thing is we have to authenticate our API key with Kie AI from earlier for it to generate the videos with our credits on here. We need to add some video ideas. It might have actually put in its own video ideas, and then we need to run the command whenever we want to have it automate that. Why don't we have a look at the files that it made? So if you lost it, you can just click right here, copy path at the bottom, click that, and then paste that into your search and press enter. And that'll bring you right to it. So here's the video folder that we asked it to make, and scripts. So this is the Python script right here. And then we have the .claude right here with the command right there that we asked it to make. Now, if we remember, so it says open.env and replace with our API key from Kie AI. So we're going to go to Kie AI. Here we are. On the left, we're going to click API keys, click on create new key, name it, and then click on create. And then you can copy your key. So I'm going to copy mine right here. Once you've copied it, you're going to come back into your project in the .env where it said to go. So we're just going to open that up. Kie AI API key, your API key here. So I'm going to delete this right after the equal sign, and I'm going to press Control V and paste it right there. Once you've done that, I'm obviously not going to paste it on camera, but I'll type paste, right? Once you've pasted it there, just click File and Save. Make sure you save it. All right, I've pasted it in and saved it. Now we can go back into Claude. So number 2, it says check the video ideas. So let's have a look in our folder. We have video ideas right here. We can open this up. Now we can change this with what we want later, but right now we're focusing on the functionality itself. So these are fine for examples. They're just randomized video ideas. I'm going to close that. And then now it says we can run the command. Now, something to keep in mind is that sometimes it'll say, I need you to run this command for this to work. It'll say, can you run this command? It'll be like pip whatever. If it asks you to run a command, you can actually just say, run the required command for me. You can just say that, and it will run it and fix it up for you. Now, with that out of the way, we can try and generate the video using the command. So I'm going to make a new session up here in the top left. I'm going to click on new session, and I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm guessing it's not going to show up. So if we type /generate, you can see the command is not there. So when you make a new command, you're going to need to restart Claude. So I'm just going to close it. To close it properly, up here top left, go File and Exit. And then I'm just going to reopen it. Here we are. I'm going to select the project on the left over here, VO3, and make sure it's selected down here as well. And we're in a new session, and I'm just going to try that again. /generate. There you go. Generate video. Now we have that, and I'm just going to hit enter. Now, if you didn't see the command, which can happen, what you're going to want to do is come back into your original session and just say, I've restarted Claude Code, but I don't see the command. Please fix it. You can literally just ask it to fix it and try again and again and again. Just keep telling it, it's still not working. It's still not working. And eventually, I've had to do that like 3 times before. On the 3rd time, it worked and it fixed it. So that's how you get that done. So we're going to go back to our session on the left over here. As you can see, it's picked an idea from the list. It's showed us the prompt that it's come up with. And now it is going to generate the video using Kie AI. All right, so it is all finished now. And as you can see, it actually ran into an issue right here. So then it said, let me read the script to understand the issue and fix it. Kind of like what I talked about in the beginning of the video, how it can self-improve. So it's going to figure out the problem. It figured out the problem, and it says, let me fix the script. So now when you run the command again, it's already going to know that. It's going to know about the issue and not run into it because it's going to fix itself. So then it says video downloaded, and then it made a title, a caption, and it logged all that information into the log that we asked it to make in our original prompt, and gave us all the results cleanly right here. And it said, this is what we improved. So if we go back to our project files, we can go into videos, and here's our downloaded video. Let's check it out. Okay, so again, this is not like a social media ready type video because we didn't make any changes to the prompt or anything. We're just making sure that it actually functions properly as a beginner project. So we have our video there. And if you remember, we also asked it to make the video log. So for me, it made it a markdown source file instead of a text file, as you can see for published posts. If you want to open this up as a text, you can go open with. If you have a Visual Studio Code, you can open it with that, or you can just open it with Notepad. So I'm going to open this with Notepad. And here's the log of everything it did to make that video as well, which is also something that we asked it for. It didn't send us a link to the video in our browser, which we did ask it to do. So if you wanted it to do that, you could just say, make sure to always send me the public file download link each time as well. And hit enter, and then it will make changes to make sure that it does that. Now, if we go back to our original conversation here, another thing we can do to improve our Claude project is do the /init command. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's basically going to make a system message that Claude will read every time to understand the context of what you want done. So every time you make a new session, it will check through this system message so that it has more context. So as you can see, Claude.md created, it covers setup, how to run the pipeline, how to add new ideas, and it's just going to run through that every time you talk to it to give it more context. Now, something else that's important to understand is when we asked it to create this command that we ran earlier, right? So now every time we can do /generate video, there's also skill. So as you can see, it classifies it under skill right here. They kind of tie into each other. And a skill or a command is basically just a sequence of events or skills that it can use to accomplish a task reliably and consistently. Now, there's a few other features that make the Claude desktop app better. And one of those is the built-in scheduled feature up here in the top left. So you can test this out. All you have to do is click on new task in the top right. And then you have new local task or new remote task. Now, new remote task will be a separate video. So we'll test out the new local task. So it'll be run specifically just by the computer you're currently on. So I'm gonna click new local task. I'm gonna call it generate. I'm gonna call a description, whatever. And then this is the instruction that we're gonna give to the project. So first you need to select your project from here. So I'm gonna select the project we worked on. And I'm just gonna say run the /generate, what was it? Generate video? Yes, generate video command. And so frequency, if this project, say, was also set up to post to social media, then it would post to social media every day automatically as well. So let's just say daily at 9 a.m. and we will click on create task. Now here is our task. If we open this up, you can see it's run the command. This is the correct command right here. That's why it's blue. And what you're going to want to do is click on run now, and that will run it through. And then if you remember from earlier where we said allow, we had to allow a few things. If you run it now from here and you allow, it will remember that next time and actually run properly. Instead of not running through because it needs you to authenticate. So make sure you run it now if you actually want it to run through the schedule. Keep in mind, for this to work, you have to have the Claude app open and your computer has to be on at that time. If it's not on, the next time you open Claude, it will automatically run all of your schedules. And finally, something important to know about is the dispatch up here, just under scheduled on the left. If you go to dispatch, you have the option to talk to Claude for anything from here. And this can be accessed from your phone. So if you download the app on your phone and you sign in on your phone, you can actually talk with Claude wherever you are. Now, currently, as of today, March 31st, 2026, at least for me and some others that I've seen, it is unstable and just doesn't work. But I'm sure in the future, if you're watching this at a later date, it will work well. So you're free to test that out if you want. That is the dispatch feature. That is the end of this video. I hope that you learned something new. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.